Welcome back again. So on this next video, we'll be doing variables, just understanding variables, .py. Okay. All right. So variables are names that point to data stored in memory. So think of them as labeled boxes, as I had mentioned in the previous video, where you keep things like numbers, words, or results. Like, let's say we have a variable name, called name, sorry, and then we'll call it the cyber student. Okay. And then what's the age of this cyber student? Let us pick a random number. Okay. You know what? I'll just put my age. Or, yeah, it's something like that. It could be -10 or +10, by the way. So I'm not putting my actual information out there. So here, name holds the text, the cyber student, and age holds the age or the number 28. Okay. And today, on this video, let me just clarify, we're talking about variables and data types. Okay, so let us start with understanding data types. So every value in Python has a data type, which tells Python what kind of data it is. Okay, so basic data types include we have integers. I think next time I will have a document or something. Integers, which are pretty much like 1, 2, 3, 10, 5, 70, 25, 80. Those are integers. Okay, and then float data types, those are like with decimals: 1.0, 2.0, 3.5, okay, 8.9. all right. And then we have the bool data type, which is also referred to as the Boolean. Okay, and these are truthes and falses. I call them that: truth, false. And notice the capital letters. Python can be very case sensitive, so you have to know what you're doing pretty much, but it's not that hard. And then we have strings, which are referred to as str or stir. Strings, which are literally text. Just call them text. Strings are text. So you can have like hello or hello with single quotes, or you can have 1, 2, 3, okay, 4. This is a string. As long as it has quotations, that's a string. And then usually you can, if you want to check the variable type or the function type, you can always use the type function. Okay, so for instance, it's called the type function. So I hope you got that when checking variables type. So use the type function. Okay, so let's say for instance we have this value 3.5, and we want to check what the type function, what type this value is that is stored in the value variable. I'm sorry. So it's just that I'm saying value, name all the time. That is why I'm chuckling a little bit. Okay, so print type value, want to check the type of whatever has been stored in the variable value. So when you click on run right there, it shows you that right there it's a float. Okay, So let's jump to the next part. So how to name variables. Okay, so how to name variables. Okay, so good variable names make your code easier to understand. So they should start with a letter. So variables have to start with a letter or the underscore. Okay, and you can only use lower cases, not only, but use lower cases. It's better to use lower cases and lowercase letters and underscores. So for instance, you can say username or grade average. Okay, and then avoid using reserved words. Reserved words are like class. You see, the moment I put class, it changes. Okay, or def. See that? Or if. Okay, or the bool, true. Okay, so these are reserved words and you cannot use them as variable names. So a bad example will be something like a cool equals to 3. This is invalid. Okay, so let us just put it like that, or something like this. One name, team. Oh, this is invalid too because it starts with a number. It shouldn't start with a number. And then the other thing is like class, Python. That is not correct because it's a reserved word. Okay. All right, so let's get to the next part. Variable assignment and reassignment. Assignment and reassignment. Okay, so we use assign. Well, assign is represented by the equal sign. So this sign right here is the assign. Sign. I'm just using these double names and I'm not sure why. Okay, so for instance, if you want to assign a value using the equal sign, which we've been doing here quite a lot using that, you just go score equals to 100. Don't worry, guys, I'm training to be a teacher. As I'm teaching you, I'm learning, I'm growing. So yeah. Okay, and you can update a variable anytime. For instance, let's say you've set the score to 100. However, the score happens to go up by 10 points, for instance. So you'll just do this. Score plus 10. Okay, and then you can say print score. Oh, sorry. Score equals to 100. Let's call this score 1 so that we make things a little bit easier for us. Okay, so from here you'll just be updating. You'll be changing this score to whatever the operation is happening here, and it's being stored in this score. But let's say, for instance, you want it stored back to that score or this score. I mean, you just want it to be stored back to score, then you can just leave it as it is. Okay, so you see it's going to do the math and then it's going to store in score where you've printed score. So score has 110. Okay, so that is how you can update a variable. And of course there are other ways. However, I don't want to make this video too long. I'm just showing you guys what's going on in degree level cybersecurity at Sheridan College. I am not promoting Sheridan College, but I just felt the need to take YouTube through my degree level. I don't know why, but we'll see the end of it after I graduate. And then the next thing is Python's dynamic typing. So Python is dynamically typed, meaning you don't have to declare a variable's type, and the interpreter kind of figures it out at runtime. For instance, when you do value equals to 5, so value equals to 5, okay? So when you say print value, okay, what is it going to give you? It's going to give you 5. So here, initially, value was an integer 5, okay? And then you change it. Remember, Python reads code line by line, okay? So initially, Python had 5. When you print value, you get a 5. So Python read this part. Okay, we have this variable. It's storing 5. So we've been asked to print a value. Oh, okay. So this is the only value that we have. Going up, there isn't any other value. Oh, there's another one. Sorry. So yeah, this is the value that I'm being asked to print. And it will go ahead and print it. Okay. Right there. Okay. And then value again has been updated to 5, okay, which is a string. All right. So print value, when you print that value again, it gives you 5. So this is no longer in the picture again, unless if you want to print it individually. However, it's pretty much been replaced by that, by the second value, okay? So you don't have to declare a variable's type. The interpreter will most definitely do it for you. And the interpreter kind of figures it out at runtime. So you don't have to be like, oh, 5 is an integer? Okay. Type. No, you don't have to do that. Python already has that figured out. And it can do that for you. Okay? It's not written here unless if you want to, go through the process of doing this. Yeah, then it will give you the string. Okay, and maybe if I want to do print value, then it will give you the integer. But Python already is aware of all of that. And the next part that I'm going to talk about is numeric types and math operations. So there are 3 numeric types. We have integers, float, and complex. So integers are the 1, 2, 3, 4s that I talked about here. And then we have the float right there. And then we have the complex. The complex is something like 3 plus 4j. Okay, so those are complex. Okay, but we won't get there. Right now we'll just do easy arithmetic kind of operations using these operators. So the first one, so we'll start with basic operations. Okay, and then we'll do print 10. We want to do 10 plus 5, for instance. Okay, let me just clear this. Right there is 15. And then so that's the addition, and it can be used as a concatenator, and we'll look into that later. And then we have print the division operation. For instance, it will give you a floating number, and then print integer division, which mostly gives you the integer. It doesn't give you the floating number. Okay, so it gives back an integer number. That is what it does. So it completely ignores the remainders. Okay, and then the next thing is the modulus, which is gives you the remainder. Okay, and then we have print. So this is called an exponentiation or exponentiate. My pronunciation is not the best. It pretty much squares. Okay, so this is the modulus. Exponentiation, if I'm correct with my spelling. Oops, sorry. So this is integer division, and that's float division. If you want, you can practice with me. The more you practice, the more you type, it gets better for you. Okay. The next thing is expressions and statements. Okay. Expressions and statements. So basically, a statement is a complete instruction. So like x equals to 5, where that x equals to 5, that's a statement on its own. It's a complete instruction. So we're putting 5 into x. An expression is a combination of variables and values that evaluates to something. So for instance, if we have x equals to 10, plus 5. So this is an expression of 10 plus 5. Print x. And you have 15, okay? So the other thing that we have is magic numbers. So always avoid magic numbers. A magic number is a hard-coded number in your code with no explanation. So it makes code harder to maintain. For instance, what is okay, so magic numbers are not good. We should avoid them, okay? For instance, we have the variable amount. What example can I use? Amount, balance. For instance, stir. We want to multiply it by 0.069. Okay, let's say for instance, balance equals to 1. Print amount. So what is 0.069? That is the magic number right there. So we shouldn't be using magic numbers. Should use either an integer or a float, pretty much, but I'll use magic numbers. Okay. So the other thing is, what else can I teach you that we've done? Okay, so let me just go back on this. In regards to magic numbers, you can use them for constants, not for variables. Okay, constants are numbers that don't change. For instance, like pi equals to 3.14159, something like that. So at this point, it's when you can use magic numbers. Say for instance, you want to set the interest rate to, I'm sorry, it should have been in caps. I'm sorry about the mistake that I made earlier. 0.069. Okay, and you want to do amount equals to balance stir and then interest. Oh, it came up here. So this is okay. You can use magic numbers this way. This is good magic numbers, but that is terrible magic numbers right there. Okay, I understand that you might see it as the same thing. However, the difference is that we're setting the interest to that magic number, so it will never change. And a constant, you don't change a constant. That is why it's called a constant. It's consistently like that. Okay, so this is good. Okay. Okay, so let's talk. We've talked about two things at one here, in one. The other thing is type casting. Sorry guys, we're on the last one. I was trying to keep this short, but it's become a little longer than I anticipated. So typecasting is pretty much converting data types. Say from one data type to the next. Like you want to convert, let's say, an integer to a float, or a float to an integer, or an integer to a string. That typecasting is for you. Okay, so let's say we want to convert a string to an integer. So this is how you read it: string to an integer. Okay, so this will do that. You want to convert, let's say, a string, an integer to a float. Okay, so of course that won't work. So this does that. So you can say number equals 2, and then print number, and then you can say number 2 equals 2, and then print number 2 right there. Oops. Okay, so you see what has happened. This was a string, now it's an integer, and this was initially a integer because it doesn't have a decimal, but now it's a float. It has a 0.0. Okay, so that is what's called typecasting. So that's it for this video. Let's do a quick recap. So we've done variables, store values, and their names should be clear and valid, as we discussed up here somewhere. And then right there. And then we did data types, define how the value is used. Okay. We talked about data types. And then the use of type function to check types, and integer function, float function, and string function to convert them. And then we discussed that we should avoid magic numbers, use constants instead. It's better to use constants than to use magic numbers like that, just like that. Okay, so, and lastly, Python is dynamically typed, so you don't need to declare types explicitly. Okay, so that will be it for this video. Thank you for tagging along. I'm sorry it was a long one, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you again. Please comment, share, and subscribe.